Milla and Millie, Around the World. Book 1, The Pendant. Chapter 1, The Call of the Ocean. The sun flared against Cape Town's majestic Table Mountain, illuminating its jagged cliffs and stretching the shadows across a bustling harbor. The briny tang of salt and diesel drifted through the air, blending with the calls of seagulls and the mechanical rhythm of cranes offloading cargo. Amid the commotion, the yacht Mercury swayed at her berth, her mahogany finish glowing as though polished by possibility and past secrets. 14-year-old Milla Hastings stood on the deck barefoot, her toes gripping the rail as if anchoring her to the moment. Despite her youth, a gravity weighed on her, an unspoken burden she carried in her gold-flecked green eyes. Her gaze swept across the harbor, darting between fleeting nerves and an undercurrent of daring she hardly recognized. A pendant glimmered on her chest, its smooth, ornate design catching the sunlight in shimmering sparks. It was her only reminder of her mother, an heirloom once given with a promise Milla had been too young to comprehend. She absently traced its edges, seeking comfort where logic failed her. "Dad, are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice fracturing slightly despite her effort to steady it as she glanced toward the dock, where Tom Hastings, her father, was coiling a rope. Years at sea had etched purpose into his stance and his face. Tom straightened, meeting Milla's gaze with a gentleness that flowed from hard-won experience. "The sea's been calling us for years, Milla," he said, his voice warm with confidence. "This trip isn't about drifting around the globe, it's about really living. You, me, and Mercury." Uncertain whether to feel comforted or electrified, Milla exhaled slowly as a small crowd had gathered on the pier, a mix of friends and curious strangers. Among them stood Vic, compact and cheerful, waving as though the world depended on it. "Don't forget to write, kid," he yelled, a carefree grin lighting his face. "You'll have to teach seagulls to deliver." Milla retorted, managing a half-smile that loosened the knot in her stomach, if only briefly. As the dockside chatter ebbed into the ocean breeze, Milla curled her fingers around the pendant. A whisper, soft as foam lapping on the shore, brushed the edges of her mind. "The horizon holds secrets, Milla. Are you ready?" Her heart jolted in her chest. She glanced around, half expecting to see Millie's familiar form at her elbow. No one stood there, but the warmth that bloomed against her chest felt unmistakably real. She shook her head, sending a silent thought outward. "Millie, if you're here." Tom's gesture caught her eye as the Mercury's engine coughed to life. Its low rumble vibrated through the deck, a promise of motion. Milla hurried forward to untie the last line, her hands trembling with anticipation, something like awe. "Goodbye, Cape Town," she murmured, so softly it was lost in the swirl of diesel fumes and the ocean breeze. She lingered at the bow, watching the cityscape merge into a kaleidoscope of color. Anxious dread mixed with a strange stirring exhilaration, each emotion warring for control of her pulse. "How's she running, Captain?" Tom called from the helm, feigning lightness but clearly scanning her face for any sign of regret. Milla turned, surprised to find her answer rising unbidden from somewhere deep. "She's ready," she said as the certainty in her voice caught her off guard. A gust filled the sails with a rousing snap, and Mercury heaved forward, embracing the open sea with enthusiasm. As endless water stretched before them, Milla felt the hush of possibility ripple through her. Whatever lay beyond the horizon, dangers or discoveries, she finally understood one truth. Their adventure had begun. Mercury rocked in a steady, soothing cadence as she made her way into the open ocean away from Cape Town, her sails drawing life from the warm midday wind. The vast Atlantic stretched out like a carpet of sunlight, each facet a promise of endless possibility. In that boundless blue, Milla could sense both anticipation and uncertainty simmering beneath the surface, an unspoken vow that this journey would lead somewhere she couldn't yet name. Standing at the bow, her fingers resting on the rail, Milla brushed the pendant and watched the coastline dissolve into a faint haze as new resolve kindled in her chest, thin as a reed yet growing steadier with each breath. This was it, her world expanding in real time, open to the wonders and perils of the sea. "Milla, lend me a hand." Tom's voice pulled her back to reality. She rushed aft to find her father adjusting the mainsail. His sure grip and weathered features radiated an easy confidence, an unmistakable calm forged by a lifetime of ocean faring. She seized the sheet at Tom's direction, the rope's coarse fibers digging into her palms. Together, they coaxed the sail into place, harnessing a fresh gust of wind that propelled Mercury forward with a thrilling surge. "Nice job, first mate," Tom quipped, as Milla tied off the line. Pride flickered in Milla's chest at the nickname, a small but potent affirmation that she belonged here. "Maybe I'll steer us next," she teased, grinning as the yacht cut through the waves with new energy. Tom chuckled, the grooves at the corners of his eyes deepening. "Let's start with some lunch? Sandwich fixings are in the galley." Milla rolled her eyes playfully, but a warm sense of camaraderie settled in her bones as she headed below deck. Her father's faith in her felt as steady as the ocean breeze. Down in the galley, the muffled resonance of hull against wave created a soundtrack both soothing and eerie. As she reached for the refrigerator latch, Millie's voice echoed once more in her mind, like a soft, persistent tide. "Watch carefully, Milla. The ocean's beauty can hide her temper." Instantly, the pendant against her chest grew warm, a living pulse that left her both comforted and unsettled. The intimacy of the moment, with only the boat's creaks for company, made Milla question for a moment whether Millie was real or just a memory, or something more mysterious. "What's going on?" she whispered, her hand hovering over the cold metal latch. The warmth against her chest ebbed as the sense of her imaginary sister's presence faded like a receding wave. Trying to quiet the tremor in her thoughts, Milla hurriedly made a couple of sandwiches and climbed back up the companionway. The glare of the sun struck her eyes as the tang of salt air reassured her that despite her apprehension, she was part of something real and immense. "Thanks, kid," Tom said, taking the sandwich with a grateful nod. They ate in silence, the taste of peanut butter and jelly grounding Milla amid the colossal reality of their journey. The horizon unfurled endlessly before them, full of mysteries waiting to be revealed, and Milla could feel in some deep corner of her heart that they were close to the edge of a new world unfolding. A sudden shift in Tom's posture made Milla glance over her shoulder. He was pointing starboard, brows knit. "What's that?" She shielded her eyes from the sun. Bobbing on the water a few lengths away was a dark shape, at first unrecognizable, then slowly coming into focus as a small wooden chest crusted with barnacles and washed silver by the sea. "Flotsam," she ventured, leaning out over the rail as an inexplicable flutter of excitement leapt in her stomach. Tom guided Mercury alongside it with practiced finesse. "Might be nothing," he said quietly, "but let's check it out." Milla snatched the boat hook, snagged the chest, and hauled it aboard, where it dropped with a sodden thud on the deck. Water trickled from its seams, and rusted iron bands hugged the weathered wood. The moment Milla laid eyes on it, something hummed in the back of her thoughts, like a chord she almost recognized. She crouched, hesitating at the latch. "Careful, Milla," Tom warned, standing close. "No telling what's inside." Taking a measured breath, Milla lifted the lid. Moldy scraps of fabric tumbled aside, revealing a small, exquisitely etched compass. The filigree designs glinted in the sunlight, and the needle twitched as though guided by a force all its own. "Wow," she breathed, lifting it gingerly. "Dad, look." Tom knelt, his eyes clouding with cautious intrigue. "That's no ordinary compass," he murmured. "We'd better keep it safe." As Milla cradled the compass, a strange sense of familiarity swept over her. It felt like holding a half-remembered lullaby in her palms, heavy with meaning she couldn't pin down. Her pendant grew warm, a gentle pulse that carried a whisper from Millie. "The first piece of the puzzle, Milla." She flicked her gaze to Tom, uncertainty mingling with a surge of anticipation. For reasons she couldn't explain, this was important, more important than a chance find in the open ocean. By late afternoon, the sun's light burned low across the water, gilding the horizon in brilliant gold. The wind had died to a mere flutter, leaving Mercury drifting on waters so still they mirrored the sky. A restless tension tightened Milla's chest as she stood at the helm, Tom by her side. "Steady on," Tom said in that reassuring tone that never quite left him. "No telling how long we'll have this." Milla nodded, squinting at the placid surface stretching ahead. "I thought the wind was supposed to pick up." The glass-smooth ocean looked less inviting than ominous, a slick expanse of quiet, hiding unseen depths. Tom tapped the barometer near the companionway. "Weather's got a mind of its own sometimes. We're all right for now. Just stay sharp." Milla tightened her hold on the wheel as an undercurrent of anxiety coursed through her veins. It was as if the ocean itself was holding its breath. Millie's voice fluttered through her mind again, light but charged with warning. "The calm is never just calm. Prepare, Milla." Almost at once, the pendant heated against her chest, more insistent than before. She cast a quick look downward, her heart skipping a beat. The warmth felt like an alarm nobody else could hear. She turned to her father and opened her mouth, but then closed it again. What would she even say? That a voice in her head was urging caution, that a magical pendant was fueling her dread? Instead, she whispered under her breath, "Prepare for what, Millie?" No answer came, only the hush of a too-still ocean, a gathering silence that left Milla more on edge than any storm could. The steady pulse of the waves increased, replaced by a mounting sense of tension that rippled through Mercury's hull. Milla remained at the helm, alone with her thoughts, as Tom edged forward to inspect the sails. Over the horizon, a thin band of brooding clouds drew her eye, dark as ink against the sunlit sky. "Dad," she called, raising her voice to pierce the stillness, "look over there." Tom returned swiftly, his gaze landing on the distant storm front. His eyes narrowed, and a faint grimace crossed his face. "Let's not wait to see if it's nothing," he said, purposeful as he started reefing the mainsail. "Milla, grab the storm jib from below and tie it to the rail for when we need it." Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she darted below deck. The cabin felt tight, as though the accumulating tension weighed on the very air. While rummaging for the sail, her pendant warmed so intensely she nearly gasped. Gone was any trace of comforting warmth. This heat was urgent, a pulsing alarm she couldn't dismiss. Back on deck, the line of clouds had grown, and the grumble of distant thunder rumbled across the water. The atmosphere around them felt charged, as though the sea itself braced for impact. Milla hauled the storm jib to the bow, but as she handed it to Tom, the compass in her pocket began to vibrate, shaking like something alive. As she took it from her pocket, she watched its needle whirling and then locking onto the storm. "Dad," Milla said, her voice taut. It's reacting." Tom hesitated, eyeing the relic with open distrust. "That's definitely no ordinary compass." A whisper grazed the air, faint as a breath, yet unmistakable. "Through the storm lies the truth." The words sent a spike of dread through Milla's stomach. Whatever storm was rolling in, it felt like more than weather, a declaration from the ocean itself. Within minutes, rain pelted the deck in sharp, stinging missiles. Lightning etched across the blackening sky, and thunder rumbled like distant cannons. Gone was the gentle lull of waves, in its place, a savage roar as dark waters slammed against Mercury with increasing hostility. "All right, Milla," Tom shouted above the wind, "take the helm and hold her steady. I'm almost done here." She scurried back to the helm and gripped it tight, her heart pounding as she disengaged the autopilot. The horizon, once clear, had vanished behind sheets of rain and furious clouds. Tom moved across the deck with precision, every motion purposeful, like a dancer partnered with the storm. A rogue wave smashed against the hull, sending a white spray over the rail. Milla's breath caught as the wheel shuddered in her grasp. "Focus, Milla," she murmured, forcing calm into her voice. Her pendant seared against her skin, urging her onward. Then, through the howl of the wind and crash of waves, Millie's voice rang steady. "Trust yourself. The storm is a test. Feel the rhythm of the sea." Milla let her eyes drift shut for an instant, inhaling salt air in fear, exhaling shaky resolve. She sensed the flow of the swells beneath her, an unruly living force. Instead of wrestling Mercury, she guided her in harmony with each surge, anticipating the ocean's unpredictable beat. Gradually, the fight in her muscles eased, replaced by a dawning confidence. "Yes, I can do this," she whispered, feeling the storm's fury through her fingertips. Tom hurried back, drenched from head to toe but composed. "Good job, kid," he said, his voice steady despite the gale. "Keep her nose to windward. We'll ride this out." With her father at her side, Milla tightened her grip on the wheel, teeth clenched against the driving wind. Though the storm intensified with each passing moment, she felt a flicker of resolve burn bright within her, an unspoken promise that she was ready to face whatever the sea threw at them next.
Cape Town's harbor, a world in disguise. Mila's dreams drift under the skies. A compass spins and a pendant warms. Whispers rise like approaching storms. The waves are calling, the winds in tune. A bond unbroken under the moon. Through mysteries veiled, the answers lie. With million Mercury sailing by. Millie's voice like a shadowed guide, an echo deep where fears abide. Her twin unseen yet always near, a strength that grows through every fear. The waves are calling, the winds in tune. A bond unbroken under the moon. Through mysteries veiled, the answers lie. With million Mercury sailing by. Millie's voice like a shadowed guide, an echo deep where fears abide. Her twin unseen, yet always near, a strength that grows through every fear. The waves are calling, the winds in tune. A bond unbroken under the moon. Through mysteries veiled, the answers lie. With million Mercury sailing by. The tempest rage won't break our stride. The ocean's rhythm, our hearts confide. Each trial faced, each truth revealed. In bonds of trust, our fate is sealed. The chest they found, barnacled and worn, held secrets deep from times forlorn. A compass needle, a path unknown, guided by whispers not their own. The waves are calling, the winds in tune. A bond unbroken under the moon. Through mysteries veiled, the answers lie. With million Mercury sailing by. The sea holds stories in every crest, a heart song where dreams find rest. Through storm and calm, the journey flows, a tale of sisters the ocean knows.